This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
New year, same party, whole bunch of video games to talk about as per usual. This is Party Loaded. We are getting loaded with a whole bunch of 2019 video games to chat about. Welcome to the show. This, of course, is your weekly podcast where we talk about all that gaming goodness. And I'd like to introduce myself first. I'm Luke Retallick. Joining me tonight, we have the crew. Happy New Year, Adrian Chia. What's going on?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Fell asleep before midnight.
That's a sign of the times, I think. Happy New Year, Christian Paulson Brown. What's going on?
Happy New Year. That's a dirty lie, Adrian. We were messaging through midnight.
Yeah, I woke up again.
Oh, scandal.
Happy New Year, Matt Game Dad Diet. What's going on?
Happy Nude Ria. It is a very good Nude Ria this year.
Yeah, okay.
Hello.
It's good because I think 2019 is the year that we all need to have a solid crack at. Happy New Year, Jam! What's going
Happy
on?
New Year and happy birthday, old man Luke.
Yes, it is indeed. Yep.
He's
I
old.
celebrated said birthday today by basically waking up super late, playing a whole bunch of games, and I went and saw Aquaman, actually. That was probably the thing that I did, and it was not terrible, so I'll mark that down as a victory.
Yeah, cool.
It was not too bad. Yeah. It's still not Marvel, but it was cool for what it was. So I can recommend, I guess. Yeah, it's all right. Apart from that, I played a bunch of stuff today, in fact, but I want to hear about what you guys played. So what did we all do over the break? Surely we got a little bit of time to play some games. So, Christian, let's throw to you first. What was your break looking like game-wise?
My break was pretty much all Warframe.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got hooked into it pretty deep shortly after I think the last recording I'd started it like the day before, and I was just sort of getting my feet wet. But now I'm deep into it.
Yeah.
Obviously not as deep as Adrian, who has he's been putting in some serious hours, but I'm crazy enjoying it. So surprised by how much I'm enjoying it. It's become like a lifestyle game, like Hearthstone was for me, where it's my sort of just go-to game for relaxing and grinding. And yeah, I don't know. I'm so impressed with how it's structured and how good the game actually feels to play, how the motion and the shooting mechanics and everything and the bullet jumping just feels really good to play.
Yeah. The ninja shit is tops. It's real good.
I'm
sitting here listening to you, and this must be how a cult leader feels when like a new person
I've seen the light.
joins the cult. Yeah.
My eyes have been opened to the truth.
Yes. You just got to pay your taxes up the chain. Just remember.
That's right.
Oh, holy crap. Yeah. No, the thing that blew my mind a bit was when the three of us were on, I think this was just before Christmas, actually. And Adrian, you just set up it's called a dojo. Is that the correct term for it in game?
Yeah.
The dojo is the physical space where your clan can meet up. So clan is like a clan. No, what are they called in other games? Guilds?
Yeah.
Guilds.
Yeah.
It's like a guild in like World of Warcraft. So a clan is like a guild. And a dojo is like a home base.
Like a guild hall.
And I did a little bit of research and thought, now that it's not just me on my own, instead of joining a clan, I may as well set one up, and the three of us can enjoy doing that together and building it out and decking it out, because it's actually almost all the assets in the game can be crafted by the players and then placed in a dojo. So you can create like amazing spaces, and it's happened to be quite a few times where I've traded with other players who are obviously involved in their own clans, and every time I get invited to trade with someone at their dojo, all of them are different. So every time I go to a dojo, they're all like, some of them are set up like Japanese gardens and have like falling petals, and some of them are like Tron style laser discos, and it's crazy. So it'll be fun once we're at some sort of point where we can start decorating in that sort of manner, but there's still probably months of grinding ahead before we can get to that point.
I have noticed that, Luke, you have strayed from the holy path, and I haven't seen you online in a few days, and that's unacceptable.
I have
you need
been
to cut off
online.
all contact with your family, and then
Like the whole New Year's thing aside, I have actually grinded a bit of Rhino in the last couple of days. I picked up my new frame, so I did have a break of about 3 days in particular over Christmas itself because I had
3 days.
Yeah, I had a new Warframe building, and it takes about
What's
3
wrong
days
with
for it
you?
to build. So I was
You don't,
like,
you don't stop playing just because you're building a Warframe. Just because a Warframe takes 3 days to build doesn't mean you stop playing while it's building. Jesus Christ, Luke.
I confess, I was playing another game, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So, yeah.
The only thing I want to say about Warframe, I've talked about it plenty. So the only thing I want to add is that at the moment my grandfather is over from New Zealand, and he's visiting. And this morning I got up at about 10 a.m., jumped on the computer and was started up Warframe, and my mum came out of the hallway. My mum's currently staying with me as well for a short term. She came out of the hallway and she said, Can you not play that game while your grandfather's here for a little while? And I was like, why? And I said, well, he's commented quite a few times that you're always playing that game. And like you were his favourite grandson, but I think
Oh my God.
your estimation has gone down in his eyes.
Oh, wow.
So to be fair, I didn't log on until about 4 p.m. today just to, save a bit of face with Granddad.
That's hilarious. Is it because of the choice of game or just because it is a game in general?
No, I think it's just a game. I don't think he, because he's never seen me in my natural habitat, so I don't think he quite realised what my gaming habits were like. Because obviously, living in New Zealand, he's never stayed with me. So
yeah.
And he's stood there and looked over my shoulder and watched it a few times. And as you can imagine, Warframe is totally confusing to anyone who even knows video games. So to an 82-year-old man watching me flip around in Warframe, he was just like, I have no fucking clue what you're doing, Adrian. I'm just going to go read my book.
Cutting aliens' limbs off and that kind of thing. That would have set an awesome impression, I'm sure.
Yeah. Although he did tell me a funny story today that when he was a child, he used to catch frogs with his friends, stick a straw in their ass and blow them up like balloons.
Oh.
Wow.
What?
So
wow.
in comparison, I think video games are probably a better option for the youth of today than my granddad used to get up to in the past.
Whoa.
Well, favourite grandson, this got a little dark.
Speaking of something,
I got no. There's nothing that we can beat that with, apart from. Anyway, so I think we promised like a holiday period that Christian, you and Jam and I were going to come back with a little bit of VR chat. So let's do a little bit of VR chat because we Jam and I have now got PlayStation VR courtesy of our Christmas shenanigans. And I know that we've all been playing a ton of Beat Saber, but before we chat about that, Jam, have you played anything besides that? Have you been VRing in different flavors? Yeah. What have you been doing?
I have traversed Perth playing VR with different friends. I have tried, apart from Beat Saber, Robo Recall.
Okay.
Tried that very briefly on Oculus. It's neat. It's a shooter. You gotta like teleport around the level and shoot, dodge bullets. Moss, which is utterly adorable, and I absolutely have to pick that up on PSVR. It's just so pretty. And Little Moss is so cute. Oh, I can't wait to play that game more. And I watched someone else play Super Hot, which looks just exquisite in VR.
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Ah, so good.
There's a lot of good sales on for PlayStation VR games at the moment as well, which I took advantage of a couple of big reductions on. I managed to pick up Resident Evil 7 for about, I think it was $13 Australian, which is a pretty good get. So I haven't loaded it yet, though.
I played a bit of Astrobot too.
Oh, nice.
Oh, really? How was
Which is
that?
really cute. It's adorable. I have to like lean around to see where the level parts are so that I can tell the little bot dude where to go.
Yeah.
I've only played a couple levels. I was doing little spots of play and then Beat Saber.
Yeah. Fucking Beat Saber. Okay, so I've determined that there is a significant problem with Beat Saber that I'm going to have to address at some point, and that is that my PlayStation VR headset cannot possibly continue taking this much sweat and remain functional. I'm really concerned about it. It's a problem. Like, Christian, you've obviously had to deal with this at some point, like having been using it for the same thing for a few months. Like,
I mentioned my
can
beach towel.
Yeah, I know. I use a towel and I towel off and that sort of stuff, but I can almost guarantee that I sweat more than you, just due to varying levels of fitness involved here. But like, I find it really, really difficult to dry that thing off, even with a little bit of sweat, because it just seems to absorb it like to a crazy degree. So I'm just curious whether anyone else has any smarter ways of managing that than actually taking the headset off and tailing it off as often as you possibly can. There's got to be a better way to do it. So
I got one.
Sometimes I'll just like slide it forward and then just wipe my brow, because my problem is that the sweat kind of drips down my forehead, and I feel like I need to like wipe it off or like scratch my face.
Yeah.
So I'll just slide it forward and then wipe my forehead, slide it back, and so I don't need to always take the whole headset off, but I do that as well.
All right, Adrian, what is your patent-pended preferred method for mopping up liquids while gaming?
It's real simple. Just don't play Beat Saber.
Oh, shit, son. No, you don't. It is my new cult. My new cult is Beat Saber. This game is life.
It's just saltiness. I know that if I had it, I would love it. I just don't have a VR set, so
So my solution for the sweaty thing is to have people over every day and rotate every 3 songs. I find that does a remarkable job, in addition to like using the microfiber cloth to wipe off the lens and some towel to wipe down the headset.
It sounds almost like the office workplace crop dusting strategy, where you need to fart and you just sort of do it around the entire office so that you can blame anybody on it.
It was the last guy.
It sounds very trusting, Jam, to be
sharing
bodily fluids with so many people.
I mean, no, everyone's responsible for wiping down quite thoroughly. I'm very particular about that. 2019.
Yeah.
So I got it for Christmas. Got right into it. Oh my God, fell in love. This game is incredible. I had my family tried out. Everyone enjoyed it, including my mum. I was shocked. It's so great. And then last week before D&D, I was like, anyone who's free, if you want to drop over a couple of hours early, try it out, feel free. And most of the group did. And since then, nearly every single day, there's been between 2 and 6 people going, oh, can I just swing by and have another go? Yeah. And I think we've got 4 or 5 who've since purchased their own PSVR.
Yeah. It has
or
been
the game on Oculus.
Definitely cult level sort of craziness involved there.
And then they've introduced it to their partners who have fallen in love. Like, this thing is just, I heart it so much. I've played it on Oculus and PSVR now, so I've had a chance to compare, which is really neat. The PlayStation is by far more affordable, more convenient for my lounge room, and I prefer the PlayStation controllers. The Move controllers are much more satisfying to swing around than the Oculus ones. But because the Oculus is based on the PC version, there's all of these mods and custom songs and ways to customize the experience, including changing the background, having an avatar. Like, it's pretty phenomenal, and it's slightly more responsive too, more accurate. But holy crap, today's the first day since Christmas that I've not played the game because I had to go to work and then have a nap because work is just exhausting.
I was chatting to our good friend Ollie before about this, and he mentioned that apparently the company has claimed that they are working on a level creator for the PlayStation 4 version at the moment.
Yeah, so they've got community mapping guidelines too on how to map songs effectively so that they're not bullshit and so that it fits the song. So they've already started working out how to, all sorts of stuff they're working on. For PlayStation, they're working on the Expert Plus mode, which I tried very briefly on Oculus, and it was bullshit. They've got 30 songs they want to release soon in 10-song packs. And apparently the first one's practically good to go. They're going to be about $10, but I don't know if that was USD or AUD.
Does it really matter?
No, I'll be buying them.
Yeah.
Because PlayStation's very particular about music licensing, so that's got 16 songs on it at the moment. I still haven't finished campaign. I haven't gone back to the campaign.
Yeah.
But, I heart it so much.
I had the same experience that you mentioned as well with other family members. Like my, on Christmas Day, I had my mother and my sister and her partner over, and it was their first ever VR experience. They'd never sort of tried any of the different VRs before, and playing Beat Saber, it clicked for them. They finally got it, and they finally understood the appeal, and they loved the hell out of it. So it was super cool.
New Year's Eve, witnessed a very, very pregnant lady try VR for the first time. And smash easy mode, we turned off obstacles so she didn't have to crouch.
Oh, yeah.
And she did so great. And then she had to have a sit down, which was fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, every single person I've seen try it has loved it. And I am itching for more content because I've already played it so much.
Yeah, it's good. Yes. All right. Well, we haven't heard anything from Matt yet. So, Matt, what have you been playing over the break? Anything cool and interesting?
Surprisingly enough, I've actually not put a lot of time in with games over the break.
Yeah.
I actually finished off BattleTech, which was my number 3 game of the year last year.
Yeah.
And I just hadn't actually finished the game, and it turns out there was like 20 hours worth of gameplay I hadn't put into it yet.
Oh, wow.
So I have finished it. I've got 112 hours logged in it now, and that's primarily just the story mode. I did start up a campaign because I was curious, and it's super neat. It kind of reminds me of Freelancer, if you ever played that old school space simulation game where there's a lot of value in the game just playing the missions that are scattered around the world once you actually finish with the story stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I've played the hell out of it. I stand by my number 3 pick. I will probably go back and play some more of the story mode. I did put a little tiny bit of time in with Surviving Mars, but I haven't gotten too far into that yet. I've just basically touched on it. It was one of those games I got from friends for Christmas. I just basically, a whole bunch of friends I have overseas and everything sent me a ton of games to add to my pile of shame this year. There's no way I'm getting through all of them.
It's like I said to you before, Matt, it's a pile of opportunity. That's what it is.
But yeah, I've been doing a lot of stuff kind of game adjacent. So my New Year's, I actually sat down and was gluing together miniatures into midnight, basically, on New Year's Eve, which was a ton of fun. And it's going to take me weeks to get through this one set that I've got. But it's been good fun. Yeah, I picked up a airbrush and everything. You'll probably hear about me doing that for a while. I cancelled my World of Warcraft subscription because I haven't played it in like 2 months.
Whoa.
I have told friends that I am coming back to Destiny 2.
Ooh.
So I'm looking forward to getting back into that.
No, Destiny's looking
better
pretty
option.
good. Yeah. Well,
It's looking very good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny. A lot of people are rating the Black Armory stuff that's just gone live for Destiny. So yeah, I'm curious. It will probably not pull me away from Warframe, but I would like to have a look at it at the very least. So yeah,
they came out with that big spoiler I mentioned last year.
Yes, yeah.
That the asshole you killed at the end of the Forsaken campaign is actually alive and a Guardian, which is super interesting for potential future story. And that alone has me interested in getting back in. But it's also just primarily because I've been reading my Grimoire anthology, preparing for doing a tabletop this year. And so I'm super keen to get back into Destiny. So yeah.
Yep, makes sense. All right, well, Adrian, did you have anything else on the list besides the Warframing sort of on and off?
I can't think of anything I've been playing. That sort of is representative of my entire experience, is that I have gone... I mean, I didn't talk about Warframe a lot because if I started, I would talk about it a lot.
And me too, I feel the same.
Yeah, it's very much all I have played every day, non-stop, over the entire Christmas break. So I'm trying to think... Apart from our game of the month, I haven't played anything else. So that's about it.
We may have to find an opportunity to chat about that and a couple of other games in a little bit more lengthy
And I'm just
fashion
preempting
soon.
now. You can just leave me out of This Week in Gaming for the whole of 2019. And we can just assume that it's been pretty much the same thing.
Holy crap. All right. Well, I did get to some other stuff. One thing in particular, which I just want to chat briefly about. So I wrapped up the last of the Spider-Man DLC. So the 3-part City That Never Sleeps sort of trilogy of content to follow on from the main game. The one that I had just sort of cracked into before Christmas was Turf Wars, the second part with sort of the major story arc involving Hammerhead. And the Magia, which are kind of like the mafia sort of knockoffs in this Spider-Man setting, and then the third one, which is called Silver Lining, which is the Silver Sable centric story piece to wrap it up. So I've finished it all now. I've basically 100%ed platinum the game, done all the DLC. I've done pretty much everything you could possibly do except for go through a New Game Plus sort of run to get the final trophy that you can get for that game. But I just say I was very impressed with the DLC at the end of it. The third one wrapped it up really nicely. There was definitely some surprises. It wasn't as formulaic as I was expecting, which is good because that meant that it was a little unpredictable in parts. One character in particular takes a very dark turn, which I did not see coming, and that's made me question whether this particular character might return in a future game as a villain instead of a good guy, girl person. So won't say who that is. You have to play it to find out, but it was super weird. And Silver Sable herself, very interesting character. They didn't really do it justice, I felt, in the main game, but she got a lot more sort of background story in this DLC episode with regards to what her motivations were and kind of her abilities and her resource reach and that kind of stuff. And there was this one hilarious running joke that they had where Spidey sort of, they start off as, enemies and then become frenemies, and they kind of, become reluctant allies for a while, as you'd expect. But for a while, like, Spidey is trying to high-five her when they finish off dealing with different thugs and things, and she keeps on just leaving him hanging, and it's this running joke, and it's fucking hilarious. And it finally pays off, and I won't say how, but it's worth the payoff. I'll just say.
Well, there's probably only one way it could pay off.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. That's all I'll say. So, oh man, but yeah, no, super cool. There's a very cool little Miles Morales sort of arc in the last bit as well, which sort of gives you a bit more follow on from what happened in the main game. But yeah, totally worth checking out. So anyone who played and enjoyed Spider-Man last year, I would highly recommend hopping on and checking those DLC eps out. You won't be disappointed. So
that'll be a no from me.
No, I know. You've moved on to other thing. Yeah, anyway.
I bought it on sale, so I'm ready to go.
Yep, it's good. It's not a super long time commitment either, so you could probably bash out all 3 episodes over the course of a weekend quite comfortably, I'd say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's good. All right, well, it's a fairly light on Newsweek this week, but we will get into it now.
Now it's time to hear some gaming news. Time for some gaming news.
All right, so, first week of the year, don't expect a whole bunch of stuff going on, but a couple of minor stories to chat about. One interesting one, which was kind of happening just as we broke for Christmas and such, was the release of Atlas was sort of in progress. And I say in progress because the devs kind of missed the drop date and extended it and then extended it again. And that caused quite the uproar from the community that was waiting for this game. So, for anyone who remembers, Atlas was sort of, I guess, shown for the first time during the Game Awards. It was kind of, there was a trailer that got launched, and that was the first sort of real look we had at the game. It was by the creators of Ark Survival Evolved, very sort of pirate-centric themed game with a lot of fantasy monster elements. It basically, to me, looked like, and for any old school Games Workshop sort of or Warhammer fans might recognize the old Warhammer Naval game stuff. It looked very similar to that. So, fantasy creatures, a lot of boat stuff. Anyway, you get the idea. But so a lot of controversy around the launch. Had a super, super rocky launch, didn't put it on enough servers, vastly underestimated the demand for the game. I hopped on during launch day, and I can speak firsthand to how shit that was. So, did not go smoothly. To date, I've not sort of jumped back in yet because I kind of want them to sort their shit out before I jump in and have a good time. So, but I found that it was initially very hard to get my head around what the heck was going on because it wasn't very hold your handy in terms of the controls and the starting sort of quests and stuff. Matt, is Ark like that at all? Like when you get into like a new game of Ark, does it sort of go through like an intro quest line or no? I feel like I'm about to find out exactly what I'm in for.
No, it's a big nope.
Okay.
It does not hold your hand at all. It's basically, hey, you just woke up. You're going to die.
Right. Okay. So maybe my expectations were slightly out of whack there, but yeah. But
that's
anyway,
that's going to be the theme of my 2019, I think.
What's that? Waking up and
You just
hoping
woke up. You're going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
With any luck.
As you'd expect, a whole bunch of people unhappy with the way the game launched have, bombarded the Atlas Steam reviews with, a whole bunch of negativity, which, seems to be the process these days, which is really disappointing. But I don't know. I think,
it's fair enough in this case.
Yeah, well, I mean, in this case, I don't know. You could argue that because it's representative of the launch as opposed to the game as a whole. So,
No, I mean, even since the game was kind of semi-stabilized, I've been hearing a lot of bad things about this game, like just as far as the balance and structure and stuff. So I'm sure lots of people will enjoy it, but I've heard a lot of criticism of the game itself as well.
Certainly seems like early access.
It's really everything about this is very similar to what happened with Fallout 76 because, again, I have a big group of friends that are actually really enjoying it, but It's actually, in this case, I have zero interest in getting into it because I can already go and play Ark, and everything I've seen just makes me think this is basically a mod, like it more than a standalone game almost.
It seems that way. A lot of people have compared it very strongly to the Arc systems, and even saying that there's some assets from the menus that look like they've been ported directly over. So I haven't played Arc, so I can't really compare. But Matt, you'd probably get a feel for it instantly, I'd assume. So
yeah, I mean, at the same time, Arc has so much content that I would much rather play the more polished game than the one that just came out that seems to be struggling to do what it says it's good at. So
yep. So I guess I'll keep an eye on that one and check back on it in a while. But Atlas maybe worth steering clear of for a bit at least, just until things are a little bit more cooked. So yeah, but from Atlas to Atlas.
That's right. Speaking of Atlas, but the far superior Atlas, which is the Japanese publisher, they recently have teased a Persona 5 project announcement. So some information leaked from some domain registries, like a Persona 5R, and then whether or not it was just in response to that, they put out a YouTube video that's all it was Joker, the main character from Persona 5, saying, come back in March 2019 and, there'll be some news. And it seems to be like a Persona 5 add-on, re-release. So they often do this for the Persona games. Persona 3 and Persona 4 have both had kind of definitive editions that add on like an extra playable character or an extra party member and a new ending, like a true final ending, that sort of thing, and maybe some balance tweaks, that sort of stuff.
Is that the Golden Edition that I remember hearing about?
Yeah, Persona 4, the Golden, and then there was Persona 3 Fez. Right. I can't remember what it stood for, but yeah, they usually do like a polished and added version of the Persona games. And so that's what this is likely to be. Some people reckon it could just be the Switch port, but the teaser video has the PlayStation logo at the end of it, so it's not going to be just the Switch port. But I do think this will come out on Switch though, because that makes a lot of sense with the Smash announcement. So
yeah.
I'm definitely down to play Persona 5 again with some new content. So
I need to play it for the first time still.
Yes.
You do.
And Jan, you need to finish it.
I finished Persona 5.
Oh, did you? I didn't realise that.
That's what pulled me away from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Ah, congrats. That's right. I do remember now. Well done.
It's a brilliant game. Don't talk down to me. 2019. Same shit, different year.
Yeah.
Damn it.
You tell him, Jam.
Wow. Yeah.
Down with the man.
Same shit indeed.
Down with the man. Unhappy birthday, Luke.
Well, speaking of cleaning things up, Blizzard have got an interesting strategy this year. It seems to clean up a bit of their Twitch chat action, particularly linked to their Overwatch esports, because that's been a thing in the past where there's been a lot of pretty unpleasant Twitch activity when it comes to their official sort of esports channels during the events. But what they're looking to do, it seems like, is they're going to start linking Twitch chat during those events to actual Battle.net accounts. So nobody quite knows exactly how that will work, but it seems pretty straightforward to me. Like if you want to get onto a Twitch chat during one of those official event times, you'll have to log in by syncing your Battle.net to your Twitch profile, which is something you can already do. So they've obviously working on some way to link that just for the purposes of the chat. So, what do you guys think about that?
It adds accountability. That's very interesting because Blizzard have control over your account. So
yeah,
I hate it.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, personally, yep. I think that I get what they're doing, and like some of the stuff that goes down in Twitch chat is gross and unacceptable. But I think like this sort of Damocles like hanging over everyone's head, saying like if you misbehave in chat, then we'll ban your account or ban you in Overwatch or whatever. Like, I just think that it's Twitch and moderate Twitch, and I don't like it bleeding over into other things. Like, if you misbehave in one area, get disciplined in that area, but don't bring it over to other things. That's just my opinion, but I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think that it's a worrying trend if that becomes the case for other games, because I don't believe that someone should be punished outside of within a game for actions outside of the game that don't strictly relate to your playing of that game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because let's say what's next? Like, if you get banned in Overwatch, you also get banned in all your other Blizzard games. Like, that's not, so that kind of just bleeding across different games, different platforms, I'm just kind of opposed to that.
And it is your Battle.net account, not strictly an Overwatch account, because that is all your Blizzard games. So yeah, it's a weird one.
It seems to be focused on the Overwatch League, so I think it's mostly for Overwatch that they're doing this. But
yeah. Could be more to discourage people than anything. Or then again, it might actually be, partly they're looking at incentivizing good behavior as opposed to punishing bad behavior. Because Overwatch has kind of switched in that direction now anyway, where there's more incentives for people acting correctly as opposed to, the ban hammer. So, yeah, it could be interesting. Like, act well in Twitch chat, earn rewards in-game. That would be a kind of cool spin on it. So, who knows? Could wait and see what they do with that. But, it's an interesting one. We'll see if anyone else picks that idea up and tries to run with it. I think Blizzard's probably one of the few that could attempt it, given the way that those accounts can sync up at the moment. But we'll have to wait and see. So, yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of weird ideas, Bethesda is demanding essays from people that are accused of cheating in Fallout 76, which is bizarre. Like, I get the idea, but at the same time, one, do they actually have the manpower to review essays from people that have sent those things in? Because, like, holy crap, that's actually a lot of manpower. Have they suddenly hired a whole bunch of English teachers? Like, I am really baffled by this. But two, like, there's a lot of people claiming that they weren't using any sort of cheating tools and that they got banned anyway, and that they were using third-party tools like Shade Engine, which basically don't actually modify anything your character does, but it does modify how the game world looks, which is something that you do a lot in Fallout games and Bethesda games in general.
Yeah.
So for them to be banning people that are doing that sort of thing and then demanding an essay from them, to say, hey, cheating's bad, but all they did was modify the game visually, it's really bizarre. One of my friends also pointed out to me that this is actually one of those things where the United Nations could very well step in and say to the Bethesda, this is not a good thing you're currently doing, because there's this whole United Nations law that you can't demand that children, it's this whole shaming thing. You can't shame children by having them write essays saying I did a wrong thing or anything like that. But I don't know how much that would actually hold up in court, or how much the UN would actually be interested in doing anything about that.
That would be wild.
It would be really strange. But at the same time, as I pointed out, well, it's not exactly a game for kids. So, Bethesda would have a good argument against it. Either way, it's fucking weird. Like, I just... Has Bethesda gone insane recently?
I think
like,
it's a PR stunt. I think it's just a PR stunt.
I agree. I think it's just a PR stunt.
Yeah. You know what I'd love to see, though?
I would believe that.
I would love to see Bethesda's fucking essays about why they should not ship crappy plastic bags instead of canvas bags and everything else that they fucked up in the last few months. Let them write the damn essays, goddammit.
Tell them to write lines on the blackboard like, I must not release shitty games. I must not release shitty games.
Yep. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing, just a silly one to wrap up the news. Soulja Boy, the rapper famous for Crank That, he recently, on his own website, put up 2 video game consoles, brand new video game consoles that he said came preloaded with 3,000 games from top publishers. He had images displaying Forza, Smash Brothers, Tekken, Mario, everything you can imagine, just fake screenshots on these crappy plastic emulator consoles. And predictably, it looks like he's being sued by Nintendo. That hasn't been confirmed yet, but he's had to pull the consoles from his store after a rather hilarious back down. So I just want to read a couple of the tweets he said before he pulled it down. He said, "Y'all don't scare me. I'm Soulja Boy, foe." He said, "Why y'all not bitching about the other companies selling consoles? Y'all don't want to see a black man get money, LeMayo. Trying to snitch on me, but I'm not doing nothing wrong. Haha, eat a dick. We're at 5 million in sales." It's so funny. Y'all don't know how business works. LeMayo, nothing is going to happen. If Nintendo was going to do something, they would have done it the first day. My console not going anywhere. Everything I'm doing is 100% legit. Stay mad and I'll keep getting richer. And then finally, Nintendo ain't going to do shit. And then, silence and pulled from the store. And Soulja Boy's an idiot.
What the fuck?
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
So if anyone actually did purchase one of those consoles from him, you could say that he Soulja a dud.
Oh, God.
Okay.
It looks
the
like
call. Bye.
it looks like what he was actually doing is the actual hardware that he was selling was pre-existing on AliExpress, just like a Chinese like technology import site, and it's just like crappy emulators loaded onto cheap hardware that you could already buy years ago, and he's just bought like a box of them or whatever, and then started selling them at a markup. So it's just an absolute scam right from the start, and it's hilarious to see this karma swing around for him.
Yep. So what was it, cheaper or more expensive now than the mini PlayStation Classic? That's what I'm wondering.
I think I'd probably rather have one of these still than the Classic Mini.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Super hard. Probably fair, though. Yeah. Interesting. All right, well, that is our brief sort of dalliance into the news tonight. So, yes, aside from that, we got something to do, which we do at the beginning of every month. And getting into 2019, this is the first Party Game of the Month review for the new year. So, Jan, what are we talking about tonight that we rolled up last year? What's going on?
We are talking about Raft, which was recommended to us by Maurice. Thank you very much, Maurice. I had been looking for an excuse to play this game for a while. It's a early access ocean survival game where you're on this tiny little wooden raft and you have to fetch debris that floats past you to start crafting things to help you survive. And it's pretty neat. Yeah. What else did you want to know, Luke?
Yeah. Pretty much it. How would you describe it? It's Minecraft on a raft. Raft. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I wouldn't actually describe it as Minecraft on a raft.
It's Rust on a raft.
Yeah.
Rust on a raft makes a lot more sense. But even then, like, this comes down to more the review part of it. But you're very, very limited as to where you can build stuff, obviously, because the whole point is building this raft out. But it kind of leaves the world feeling a little bit barren compared to games like Minecraft or Rust, in my opinion. Like, there's not a lot to explore on the open ocean other than those islands. And so I think that the major issue the game ends up having is just the fact that it feels like, yeah, I'm going to get a couple of hours out of this and then lose interest really quickly unless they add, like, continents and not just little, spires of stone in the ocean to look at,
Which defeats the purpose of it being a raft game at that point, really. Yeah.
I mean, like, I think it could actually be a much more interesting game if you actually had, like, a desert island that you started off on or could stop off at. And, maybe some more navigation and exploration rather than just kind of this randomly generated ocean that has spotted islands around. There's a lot of potential in it. I'm not going to say you shouldn't invest in it because it is early access and it could go anywhere. But certainly right now, I've had a lot of fun playing it, but I can also see that I will probably play it for like another hour or two and then be like, yeah, I'm done with this now. I'm cool.
Yeah, fair enough. Christian, Adrian, what did you think jumping in and having a play?
Well, we only played it a little bit together. And I mean, I don't know about you, Adrian, but I found it was kind of it wore thin on me very quickly. Like I appear on the raft, I got my little hook thingy, I can throw it and pick up the crap that's floating around. And then there's like typical survival game menus of, build your water and your food and you can build a shelter and that sort of stuff. Actually reminded me a lot of The Island, if anyone knows that game.
I remember that vaguely. Yeah.
And I don't know, just survival games aren't my thing. Like when the point of the game is to like manage your character's survival, like your health and your drink and food and that sort of stuff, it just doesn't do it for me. Like I'm just not interested in that. I don't find it stimulating. I don't find it engaging. And I was just very quickly done with the game. Okay, this is what it is. It's crafting menus at sea, and not my thing. What about you, Adrian?
Yeah, I tend to sum it up with this one sound effect. That's sort of what I think of Raft. It was fine. I mean,
yeah.
And I mean, not to just be an echo chamber for Christian, but I tend to agree. Like, maybe it's that I'm not into survival games, but I have to think that can't be the case because there are other games that I've played that aren't pure survival games, mind you. But there are elements of survival games I think do appeal to me. But I think the main problem with Raft is the concept itself is that you're stuck on a raft because it means that you have to wait for things to come to you. You have to wait for the content to be available to you rather than going off and exploring. So you can't, you can paddle over to an island, but you have to wait for an island to be within view in the first place. And it's just not very fun staring at like an empty ocean and grabbing debris out of the water. Like, I just don't find that very engaging. Well, at least in something like Minecraft, you can wander off and stumble across like a really rich deposit of resources, or you can find like a sprawling cavern and, you know, start mining it or fitting it out into some way that you enjoy. Well, unless I'm missing some big hook, it just seems with Raft, you're always waiting for the resources to come to you, which is frustrating. Maybe the most exciting thing about the game is the shark, and maybe jumping in the water and going, oh, fuck this hook, and swimming around and trying to grab resources and outrunning the shark, maybe. But I don't know. I find it pretty unengaging, to be honest.
Stabbing the shark to death and wearing its head on your head is pretty rad. That is
well, there you go. I didn't know you could do that. Christian and I never got as far as killing a shark.
We didn't get too far into it. We kind of just covered the basics of being able to keep ourselves alive, and we built like a little 2-story dinghy raft and had some water and some plants going, but we didn't get too deep into the menus. We're picking up prints for like receivers and antennas and that sort of stuff. So I could see that there's some more going on in the game than you know it is at first glance, but I wasn't interested enough to delve into that because I had the feeling that it was just going to boil down to just more survival stuff. So can anyone prove me wrong? Is that basically what it is, or what am I missing?
I think everything you said is pretty accurate. I mean, I found the game enjoyable, but at the same time, I can't disagree with anything that you've said in terms of your assessment on some of the different systems and stuff. So I do enjoy survival games, and I find that even basic ones like this are a bit of fun for a short time. I totally agree that it's, you know, got a cap on, you know, how many hours you'd want to spend in the game, because I think certainly Matt and Jam and I, because we sort of played together and streamed a bit of it, we were getting towards the point where we were going to run out of content pretty soon, I think. Unless we just decided to spend our time just building a ridiculously ostentatious large raft and kind of just, you know, making it a floating fortress sort of thing. But in terms of the tech tree, we'd kind of explored just about everything. We'd started to sort of,
You're lying. You're lying. My raft is so much more advanced than your raft.
Fair, all right.
Patently false.
You did have a lot more stuff on your raft than we had, but we had at least researched it.
And it's got even more now. I have the antennae, I have the receiver, I have explored the endgame content. I played a lot. I've played about 18 hours.
Yeah.
Wow. My raft could totally beat your raft in a fight.
Right? I upgraded my anchor. I've got the solar-powered water purifier and the large grill. I've got shark head display boards everywhere and my hammock and the cooking station. It's very simplistic. It does take a while for things to get done. What you guys might have missed out on if you hadn't played it much is at the islands, if you can take care of the shark by either killing it or baiting it out, you can go diving and you can scavenge underwater for new materials like metal ores and sand and clay and extra scrap, which helps you. Yeah.
We saw that like the ocean floor around the islands looked especially detailed, but I didn't know you could actually go down there and get stuff.
Yeah.
I swam down there. I was hoping to find a different game down there, but
you swim. Well, you discover Fallout 76. Suck shit.
They help you unlock more of the crafting tree through the research station. But what I found most enjoyable about the game was playing with friends. I think I've played with 4 different groups of friends on different rafts over the last month, and it's been a really great go-to chill game when none of us have particularly the energy to maybe play a few rounds of Overwatch, but we just want to chat and be doing something while we're chatting and catching up. It's been great. And yeah, the endgame content, nothing extravagant. And at the moment, because it's still early access, it's more like a teaser, sort of a slight explanation of what's going on. But I think this is a game I'll come back to as they add new content because it's fun, and I've really enjoyed building out my raft. I've found that sense of accomplishment, managing to add, you know, planters that can grow trees and all the neat bits and pieces, and this stupid, impossibly physics-defying ramp that just runs off one corner to help us get to the tall parts of the islands.
Like a giant loading board. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've found with Raft, it's actually a game that I've had a lot of fun around it in terms of the fact that I find it really interesting to kind of break down why I enjoyed it, but I'm not really interested in it further than what it has right now. And I find it really interesting to kind of compare how Raft's game loop works against something like Minecraft or like even Fallout 76, right? And I've kind of found that the thing that Raft is really missing is that exploration mechanic. But even the building side of it is fairly limited. Like everything that you're doing in Raft is always about increasing your survivability, and there's nothing else really there that it feels like you're kind of working towards. Whereas in a game like Minecraft, yeah, you can keep on working towards your survivability, but it very quickly, like your survivability in Minecraft does not become a problem. Like you go and make a couple of crops, you don't have to worry about food anymore pretty much. Like that's no longer an issue. And you're constantly digging further and further down into the world to get diamonds so that you can make better gear and make better tools and everything like that.
That sounds like a good game. Let's play that.
But with Raft, like you get improved versions of the tools and everything that just kind of last longer than the older versions from what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is just kind of building up your raft to let you live longer, but then the longer you're able to live without doing something, the less content you actually have to consume in the game. Because some of the most fun moments are that panic of, oh shit, we've been on this island for too long, we've actually run out of wood, so now we haven't got any food, we haven't got any water, we need to set off and actually find an ability to actually make that stuff again. It's kind of, it limits you, but the whole thing about it is you're just constantly working towards making your ability to survive better, and that doesn't necessarily encourage you to make really big extravagant boats, especially with how slow and how much time and resources it takes to make a really extravagant boat, right? Where, yeah, like you compare it to a lot of other games, and I'm going to make a comparison to Ark. Like Ark's a much, much larger game than Raft, but even when you get to that point where survival is no longer a problem, the game becomes more about, well, collect dinosaurs then, right? But I don't see that with Raft. Like, what happens when you get to the point where survival isn't such a problem anymore, right? Like, you can't even just say, well, I'm just going to explore the game world, because the reward for exploring is getting more materials to make your raft better. But there's no real reward for making your raft. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like this circular thing.
It's just quite shallow, and unlike the ocean in the game, haha. And I feel like it's the sort of thing where like someone has the idea, like, oh, what if there was a survival game but you're stuck on a raft? Cool. And then the game is made, and it's like, oh, actually, this isn't very fun. This can't really go very far. But the idea, when you say it out loud, sounds really interesting. Like, oh, okay, you're stuck on a raft. You have to build the raft out. Yeah. But yeah, and then in practice, it's actually quite shallow. So
in early access, if this is just the base sort of building block of the game, which they're planning on iterating on like considerably from this point, I think it could be really fun. But
for sure,
if this is the whole game, then yeah, that's a problem. I think there's definitely not enough in there. One system I really did like, though, is the crafting system in terms of finding components and putting that on your crafting station, and that itself unlocking the things that use those components. I thought that was kind of neat.
Researching, It was a neat way of doing it, because if you find a bolt for the first time and you immediately spend it to do a fancier fishing rod or hook, you've bypass the opportunity to learn more about the bolt to unlock other recipes that involve bolts. Yeah. So I thought that was neat too.
I actually hope that in future they do a bit more to make that a bit more mysterious, because imagine Minecraft, but you had a gigantic recipe book of all the different recipes that you could make in, like that's less interesting than what Minecraft actually is, which is experimentation inside of that crafting menu.
Well, you say that, but Minecraft has changed now to be exactly the former rather than the latter, because it's modeling the console versions now, which you actually do have the entire recipe book to start with, which is a shame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that is unfortunate, because one of the best parts of that game in the beginning was experimenting and saying, well, if I make a door shape out of wood, oh, look, I get a door.
Yeah. Agree.
I find that is much more interesting than, just going through a recipe book. But, like, if they go and they say that this is the core loop of the game, the core loop of the game is going out into the game world and finding resources and such, and then they slap on top of that, okay, well, now our game world isn't just randomly generated. Well, it's randomly generated, but if you go in a direction and then you turn back and head back where you came from, you'll end back up where you started rather than just ending up in a random location again. And they go and add islands and give you the ability to do all that building on an island in addition to on your raft. And now the game becomes about going out, gathering resources, and going back to a home base where you can start building up something and making a cool structure and such. That sounds dramatically more interesting than just making your boat better so that you can survive longer.
I think that defeats the purpose, though.
Yeah, then it's not
fixing it
raft
to an
anymore.
island. You make the raft into a mansion. That is the purpose, so that it's a portable stronghold to conquer the world.
No Man's Raft.
Yeah.
Well, no, like, even if it was like, okay, well, you're building up a base, not to necessarily live out of, but to store stuff or to
you can do
call
that
for
on your
help.
raft.
You can do that on your raft. Yeah, I know, but I'm looking for ways to make this more interesting, right?
I think
But
what
make
they
it
need
a
to
different
do,
game.
if the
they need
bottom
to
line,
improve the mechanical side of it. I think if they can make it so that you can get to the point where you're developing an engine, which means you can move through the world much faster so that you're encountering the randomly generated stuff much more frequently, and then build on that so that there's larger scale stuff to encounter, whether it's not just because the other rafts you encounter in the game are just they pop up, they're just like game creators stuff. You can't encounter other users, and you can't interact with them except picking up one esky of materials. You can't even deconstruct them or anything. I think if they develop that side of things so that you could explore other rafts that might be a little more magnificent, maybe designs created by users or something, like there's a lot of potential to build the content, but yeah, at the moment it's a bit threadbare.
Yeah.
I'm going to entirely disagree because
Yeah?
I think that the core part of the game right now is going out there and gathering stuff to make your raft better, and that plays just fine. And the problem that it sounds like most of us have with it is that it's shallow because that's all it is. And if they just keep on building on top of that, then it's still going to feel like a shallow experience, right?
Oh, see, I love it for what it is. I just thought it ended too soon.
Okay.
Whereas
So
I don't really like it
that's
for
where
what
our
it is.
opinions, I think, disconnect, which is interesting.
I would love it as a PvP game. I think that'd be a ton of fun.
That would be good,
Of course you
yeah.
would. You probably tried to kill me as soon as you loaded into the game.
No.
It was this great moment where Christian and I were standing on the raft and he turned around and I was holding a rock in the air. Cave in his skull with his rock. He's like, "What? Is that a rock?" It's like,
Gotta survive, man. Gotta survive.
Yeah,
Sorry, I've realized one thing that I actually would love this game to turn into, and that would be I really don't like how the game looks. So the game looks just kind of like basic 3D renders of all these different materials. It's not very artistic. I don't find it very like creatively looking. And if this game turned into something that was beautiful, like some sort like an art project, if there were lovely, night skies and sort of mystical, a bit like strange islands, like a Life of Pi. If any of you have read or seen Life of Pi, about a young boy at sea with a tiger in a boat.
Yeah.
And there's amazing scenes in the film of that where there's like the bioluminescent jellyfish and there's whales, and he finds this island in the shape of a woman, and there's all this sort of weird stuff going on. And if this game became more like artistic and had like mystery to it, then I'd really like that, actually. But it's kind of just looks a bit bland and ugly at the moment.
So Christian would like No Man's Raft.
Yes.
see, I'm not saying No Man's Raft. I'm saying Sea of Raft, right? Or Raft of Thieves.
Now here's
where
the funny
basically
thing.
you
I
just make your own boat.
I actually currently prefer the core gameplay loop of Raft to Sea of Thieves.
That's why I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because I love the world exploration of Sea of Thieves, and just being on the ocean is so satisfying. But in Raft, it's actually really boring being on the ocean, which is ironic because that's where you spend all your time. So, like, if it was able to do something like what Sea of Thieves does, where you have some objective to go out there and continue exploring all these other islands to gain something more than just resources to make your raft better, I think that would actually be interesting. Like, exploration being a core part of the game would be cool rather than just gathering resources, but it's kind of surrounded by... It's not really exploration if you're not going anywhere, right?
That's sort of where the end game content directs you, but it's just the initial stages. So you build the receiver and the antennae, and you get a a ping to go explore. So I think they're hoping to go in that direction with future updates. Fingers crossed, because that would be sweet.
Maybe turn it into a detective game where you're actually trying to find out what actually sunk your ship or your aircraft in the first place, and you have to.
Interestingly, that might also be related to the end game content.
Oh, really? Okay.
That you haven't seen.
Interesting. Okay. Well, fair enough. I'll just shut up then.
It doesn't take long really to get to the end game thing. But I mean, for what it is, it's. How much is it on Steam at the moment?
Under
$30 Australian?
$29 Australian, yeah. Which I think is probably a little too expensive, to be honest.
I've already got my refund, so...
Yeah.
I think it's, for what it is now, it's a little expensive. That being said, I mean, I've put a lot of hours in. I've really enjoyed just hanging out with folk on various rafts. And yeah, it's a good chill activity, and I'm glad we finally got a chance to play it because I've been wanting to try it out for a while.
Yeah, I've put 4 hours in, and I don't regret my time put into it. I'll say that much. And I might end up playing a little bit more of it later on, but certainly I would see myself uninstalling it at the 6-hour mark and then never replaying it again. Basically,
yeah.
Unless they do
that's
something.
A very common opinion too.
Yeah, unless they do something to add more to the game than just it being about the raft, which seems kind of ironic since that's its namesake. But yeah, like there's this thing. I guess what I'm being trying to say is that the world exploration and just going around from island to island is neat and all, but there's nothing that is consistent or stays that way, right? Like as I say, you can if you just keep on traveling in one direction. Yeah, except your raft. If you keep on traveling in one direction and then travel all the way back in the direction you came from, you'll still run into entirely different islands. Like, the world will constantly shift and randomize around you because it's just creating content on the go.
It's not doing chunks like Minecraft.
Yeah, whereas if it gave you the ability to craft an item that was a map, and you could start mapping where you've been and where you're potentially going, that's freaking awesome. Like, there's so much potential in that, and the ability to go out and find islands and maybe go back to previous islands, to let stuff regrow and gather resources from them. Like, that's neat. But just the way where it's currently at, I can't recommend it. I think that you'll play 6 hours and then be like, meh. Or unless you really love survival games, then you might stick around with it. But as much as I enjoy survival games, I'm just not having fun with this anymore.
Yeah. So I think we could probably all agree on that. Like, generally not a huge recommendation unless you're planning on having chill time with friends or you're a big survival game fan. Would that be accurate for everyone?
I agree, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, seagulls are the worst. I hate seagulls more than sharks.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Gulls.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that is our review of our party game of the month for January, which is Raft. So we, of course, now need to roll up our next month's game. So we have the list. Jam, do you have the device?
I do. Do we want to announce our winner first?
Yeah. Who's that?
Someone recently who suggested a game to go on our list wins a copy of Raft, which we just reviewed slightly poorly. Hilarious. Shall I announce?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So our winner this month is Tim Valletta. Thank you very much for your suggestion. It's been added to the list, and we will be getting you a copy of Raft.
I finally met Tim at PAX this year. He's a top bloke. So I hope he enjoys it and has a good time with that one. Yeah.
Awesome.
Like, at the very least, you're going to get 6 hours of enjoyment out of it, which, I mean, $30, you're basically paying for a couple of theater tickets to go and take your family to see a movie. So, grand scheme of things, it probably evens out.
Yep. Fair.
I love it when you have to justify the purchase of a game.
We're gamers, it's what we do, right? All right, I've closed the thing. I've got my random number generator. Are we ready?
All right.
Yes.
I think we are ready. So we have a list of games which people have suggested, and let's give it a roll and see what we've got next month. Go for it.
Okay, rolling it on the desk so you can hear it. It's a 2.
Yes!
Ooh.
What was 2? I closed the thing.
2 is Domina, which is a game that I suggested.
What is Domina?
Domina, I haven't played yet, but because I've been waiting for it to be rolled up. But it's a pixel art gladiator, like Roman gladiator game, where you like hire and train and fight with like a team of pixel gladiators in an arena, and train them up. And there's also chariot racing, and you have to fight lions and all that sort of stuff. And as a fan of Roman history and as a fan of pixel art, I think the game looks cool. So I can't wait to find out if it's any good.
Just fair warning, I Google image searched Domina while you're explaining it. It's like something out of a sitcom. Don't Google image search Domina. Not with your kids around anyway.
I jumped into Steam and it's currently half price at $7.25 Australian.
Yes.
I'm purchasing that
nice and cheap.
right now.
Yep.
Let's get on it.
Right now. Winter sale's about to end. Getting on that.
Nice. All right, well,
I am super down with any sort of management games right now, so...
Sounds good.
Yeah, very much looking forward to this one.
All right, well, if anyone else wants to suggest a game for our Party Game of the Month list, Adrian, what sort of stuff are we looking for?
So we have a couple of guidelines in place. The game must already be released, so it can't be something that's coming soon or isn't available at the time you submit it. It must be on PC, mobile, or multi-platform. Nothing that's console exclusive, so that we can all play it. Because we all have access to different machines. It needs to be a maximum of $40 Australian because we aren't made of money. And it must be able to get a good impression from just a few hours of play. So we need to be able to pretty much understand the game in an hour or two without having to sink too many hours into it. And if you would like, you can send your suggestions via email, Twitter, or Facebook to us, and we will add them to the list.
Awesome. And
you go in the draw to win a copy of the game, possibly.
Yes, everyone who suggests a game, we'll add any game that's suggested onto the list as long as it fits that criteria. And just by suggesting a game, you go into the running to win a Party Game of the Month in future months.
yeah, no guarantee as to whether it's a good one or not, but we'll tell you when we review it.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, well, the good variety anyway.
Like, I think it's worth noting that with Raft, like, none of us hated it. It's just that we found it limited in interest.
Totally.
So.
Yeah,
That's
it's
true,
definitely early access and overpriced for early access. So
Yes.
Yeah.
hopefully that changes.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Well, Domino sounds cool, Christian. I'm a big fan of the theme in general. That sounds awesome.
Cool.
And if it's shit, we
I've
can
already
blame you
finished
directly
downloading.
for it.
That's right.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, if people want to get hold of us, all the usual channels, mail at partyloaded.com. Our Facebook is just partyloaded, so look for that. Twitter at partyloadedshow. Check out our content on YouTube at youtube.com/channelendgame and also on Twitch. So twitch.tv/partyloaded. We're going to be putting up a bit more stuff on the main site sort of in the coming months. We've started sort of doing some articles every so often as well. You can catch all that at channelendgame.com as well as all of our recent episodes of The Stuffs. So, yeah. So we've got some fun things to chat about next week. So I'm not going to sort of delve too much into those questions now, but being the beginning of the year, we've got a bit of stuff to talk about in terms of what we want or what we hope is going to happen this year. So look forward to that coming up real soon. So we've got a few things to think about this week, gang. We've got to maybe make some calls, some predictions, let's say we want to basically put some things down that we get to say later in the year. Fucking called it. And see if we can get it right. So
it's Luke's favourite pastime.
I bombed out last year massively, by the way. Well, my two predictions, if I can remember last year, was new Diablo being released and Borderlands 3, and I think I fell on both those counts in a spectacular fashion. So, yeah, it was interesting.
How do you remember that? Did I say anything? I don't even remember.
I was secretly hoping for it all year, so that's how I kind of remember it.
Oh, fair.
Yeah. I don't remember what you said, actually. I might have to go back and look at it now.
No one does.
Yeah.
No one does. It's fine.
Nice. All right. Well, any plans of interest over the next week? Warframing, Beat Saber. Yep.
Warframe.
Yep.
Oh, Beat
More
Saber
like
also
Warframe.
would have 100% topped my 2018 list of games and won hands down had I played it before that episode.
Yeah, I would have featured fairly highly on mine as well, to be fair. Yep. Nice.
I have organised with some friends to play Jackbox Party Pack 5 over the weekend.
Oh, excellent.
That'd be fun.
Tell me.
I will let you know how
about
it goes. Yeah, because I'm looking forward to it. I haven't played Party Pack 5 yet, but I might also boot up Surviving Mars. I'm definitely booting up Destiny 2. I'm holding myself to that. If I say next week that I haven't played Destiny 2, somebody can come over here and kick my ass.
Noted.
Nice. All right, well, I'm in favour of some Warframe maybe right now, so we'll call it a show. Thank you very much for listening, everybody, and until next week, that's it for us. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.